Now, if he didn't mean it, he should apologize. But he knows very well what those things mean. And even, again, if he didn't mean them, afterward you could say, and he should, I didn't mean that. That wasn't the symbol I was trying to show. Now, here's what I think about it. Neo-Nazis across the United States celebrated when he did that. That should be some indication to everybody about why this is so important for him to call out. Now, what has he followed up with? Jokes about Nazis. Jokes, like it's okay.
Since last year, Donald Trump has been the boy who cried TFF. It has been the single most repeated word out of Donald Trump's mouth, and now he's putting his money where his mouth is, or actually, really, our money where his mouth is, and I know you don't like the idea of that. Neither do I, but in a series of insane posts today, Donald Trump started a trade war that has already backfired in a horrific way, and people are upset with Trump, and Trump upset about that, and we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now, we are going to get into the trade war that Donald Trump has effectively started with Colombia. But before we do, I want to hear from someone who has been talking about the effects of Donald Trump's tariffs, a world leader who has warned us all about how devastating this will be before we get into this breaking news story.
President-elect Trump has been needling you a bit, calling you Governor Trudeau, talking about making Canada the 51st state. Did you have any interaction with him today?
No, not today. But that's not going to happen. Canadians are incredibly proud of being Canadian. One of the ways we define ourselves most easily is, well, we're not American. There is such a depth of pride that that's not actually an issue. What I think is happening in this is President Trump, who's a very skillful negotiator, is getting people to be somewhat distracted by that conversation, to take away from the conversation around 25% tariffs on oil and gas and electricity and steel and aluminum and lumber and concrete, and everything the American consumers buy from Canada is suddenly going to get a lot more expensive if he moves forward on these tariffs. And that's something that I think we need to be focusing on a little bit more. What's your number one piece of advice for your successor when it comes to President Trump? Understand that the win-win is what we need. Making sure that everyone understands that we do better when we work together, that yes, the American president has a capacity to hurt the Canadian economy. There's no question about that. But anything an American president does to hurt the Canadian economy will also hurt American consumers, American workers, and American growth. We do better when we work together to take on the world, whether it's China or Russia or anywhere else. When we work together, we can't be stopped. And that's the focus that we need to have. And that's certainly what I've continued to work on with President Trump.
I wanted to start with that clip of Trudeau to act as a sort of warning of what will actually happen when Donald Trump levies these tariffs, which we already saw play out today. It will be American consumers who bear the brunt of what Donald Trump is doing, not him and his rich friends who don't care. Donald Trump just wants to act tough and make us pay for it. And so when today Colombia denied 2 planes with immigrants that Donald Trump was shipping over there, he decided to lose his mind and make an insane post on Truth Social, which is causing some serious blowback because it is backfired. But before we get into how it backfired, let's take a look at what Donald Trump said. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "I was just informed that 2 repatriation flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia. This order was given by Colombia's socialist president Gustavo Petro, who is already very unpopular amongst his people, Pro's denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the United States. So I have directed my administration to immediately take the following urgent and decisive retaliatory measures. The Post continues emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States in 1 week. The 25% tariffs will be raised to 50%. A travel ban in immediate visa revocations on the Colombian government officials and all allies and supporters, visas, sanctions on all party members, family members, and supporters of the Colombian government, and enhanced customs and border protection inspections of all Colombia nationals and cargo on national security grounds, IA Treasury banking, and financial sanctions to be fully imposed. These measures are just the beginning. We will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of the criminals they forced into the United States. So that post by Trump on its face got a ton of backlash because Donald Trump promising 25% or 50% tariffs on Colombian imports, considering how much coffee we import into the United States, consumed by tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of Americans every single day. It got tremendous backlash. But then we saw the president of Colombia capitulate to Donald Trump, say that he would allow those planes to land, even offering to send his own presidential plane. And MAGA and Trump, kind of walked around with their chest puffed out like it was a big win. But that wasn't the end of it, because the Colombian president then responded to Donald Trump with some tariffs of his own. Let's check out what he had to say. President Donald Trump on Sunday announced retaliatory tariffs on Colombia after its president blocked U.S. military deportation flights from landing, the first instance of Trump using economic pressure to force other nations to fall in line with his mass deportation plans since he took office last week, hours after Trump's announcement. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said he ordered the Commerce Ministry to raise tariffs on U.S. imports. I am informed that you impose a 25% tariff on the fruits of our human labor to enter the United States, and I do the same. Petro wrote in a long post on X aimed at Trump before he announced the 25% tax on U.S. goods. So Donald Trump is playing stupid games. Donald Trump is winning stupid prizes, and Donald Trump does not care about the 25% import tax, that big tariff that Colombia is putting on us imports, because he does not care about any U.S. company shipping over there. He doesn't care about how it affects their bottom line. He wouldn't care if there was a 50% tariff on coffee that is consumed every single day in the United States, because Donald Trump just wants to act tough, pretend to be strong, and say his favorite word, which is TFF. And it's already backfiring, and people are upset about it, but Donald Trump clearly doesn't care, because when we saw what he was up to today, I guess it shouldn't be any surprise it wasn't paying attention to us. Let's take a look at what Donald Trump was doing. Golfing. What a shock Donald Trump was playing a little golf, hanging out in the clubhouse instead of making sure that his Wild Truth social post didn't have any real economic impacts on the United States of America. But why would Donald Trump care about that? That's not really up his alley. All he is focused on is serving himself, his rich friends, acting tough fear-mongering against immigrants, and throwing tariffs around willy-nilly as he pleases once again, without any consideration of how it affects us. It seems like Justin Trudeau cares more about the American consumer than Donald Trump does. But of course he is going to continue to push forward his immigration plan, his deportation plan, better put. And Democrats have to call it out, which is exactly what Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker did in a clip I want to check out right here.
Look, at a moment when anti-Semitism is at an all-time high in my lifetime, We have a very prominent figure who is very closely associated with the president standing up at a presidential rally and giving 2 Nazi salutes in a row. Now, if he didn't mean it, he should apologize. But he knows very well what those things mean. And even, again, if he didn't mean them, afterward you could say, and he should, I didn't mean that. That wasn't the symbol I was trying to show. Now, here's what I think about it. Neo-Nazis across the United States celebrated when he did that. That should be some indication to everybody about why this is so important for him to call out. Now, what has he followed up with? Jokes about Nazis. Jokes, like it's okay. And then showing up in a video presentation to the far right folks who are the most anti-Semitic in German politics, and and standing up for them and telling them, I'm for you. That's bad for the United States. It's bad for Jews across the world. It's bad for Germany. And President Trump ought to be calling that out. If he doesn't agree with Elon Musk, if he doesn't agree with 2 Sig Heils at his own rally and backing a party that backs Nazis, then he ought to say so. Why isn't Donald Trump speaking out? Well, let me start by being clear that when we're talking about violent criminals who've been convicted and who are undocumented, we don't want them in our state. We want them out of the country. We hope they do get deported. And if that's who they're picking up, we're all for it. They show up with a warrant, and we're going to hand over people who are in our prisons or in our jails who fit that description. Now, what they're also doing, though, and it's quite disturbing, is they're going after people who are law-abiding, who are holding down jobs, who have families here, who may have been here for a decade or 2 decades, and they're often our neighbors and our friends. And why are we going after them? These are not people who are causing problems in our country, and what we need is a path to citizenship for them. We need to secure our border. We need to get rid of the violent criminals, but we also need to protect people, at least the residents of Illinois and all across the nation, who are just doing what we hope that immigrants will do. Dana, we're going to follow the law in Illinois and federal law, too. We expect them to do the same. I'm very afraid that they will not follow the law. The reason they put a memo out like that is that that's already the law. We have to follow federal law. We have to follow state law. Otherwise, we're potentially subject to prosecution. We also have a law in the books in Illinois that says that our local law enforcement will stand up for those law-abiding, undocumented people in our state who are doing the right thing. And we're not going to help federal officials just drag them away because somebody pointed at them and said, oh, that person's brown or that person's not from here. Check it out. Maybe they're undocumented.
So, Governor, that's exactly what I was getting at. You have a law on the books in your state that requires maybe local law enforcement to protect people that the federal law enforcement agents are coming in to try to deport. I mean, that sounds like a recipe for a big problem.
No, what it requires is that our local officials will not coordinate with federal officials on the arrest of people who when they don't have a warrant associated with them. Look, again, we want to get violent criminals off the street just like everybody else does, and we're going to coordinate in that. And if someone's breaking the law, and they're in the process of breaking the law, or we know they've broken the law, we want help from federal officials to arrest them. But our local officials are not just going to say, well, that person seems like they're undocumented, so we're going to hand them over to you and you can figure it out.
We have to continue to respond to Donald Trump. His mass deportation plan will only get more unpopular as we continue to talk about how devastating it is. And so we have to every single day. And that is certainly what we are going to be doing on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.